Hey everyone, welcome back to the space. I'm Allegra Jackson, the marketing medulla, and we are here with Miss TC Okur. We're talking again about the big brand small business with Apple, from garage startup to tech titan. And this is really important because we have covered a lot of information, and we have grown through this process ourselves, myself and TC. We have done a lot of digging into our own businesses. We encourage you to do the same thing when you're in this series. Like, we had to do this part two because part one was so good. So if you're not taking notes and if you're not, applying this to your business practices, then you are missing out. But I'm Allegra, the marketing medulla. I'm a business coach and marketing strategist and entrepreneur of many years, and I love working with women entrepreneurs. And I have Miss TC with me. She is amazing. She's a part of my Women into Networking WIN community. We are a nonprofit business networking community, and TC is one of our founders.
Oh, okay. All right. So thank you so much, Allegra. I hope you all can hear me, and I'm really very excited about this conversation. I mean, so many of the amazing folks that we have in our audience are literally talking about Apple, and just when we had like all of this planned out. Listen, do you know? I'm sure you know this already, and I'm sure it's no news. Well, Apple just brought out the new model. I think it's like iPhone 16. Please don't come after me right now because personally I am done. Can they do something different? Now that's just by the way, but they just came out with a new model of the, or rather the new iPhone series. I call it the series, and I think that's like iPhone 16, right? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Trust me, I'm not keeping tabs, but iPhone 16, I guess, and I've been getting a couple of you know mixed feedbacks about um, this particular model. I want to hear from you what you think. If you gotten yourself the newest, iPhone that are literally launched. Personally, if you'd ask me, I'll be like, you know, I don't think I want to get a new iPhone. I'm just good with mine. But I've been paying attention to so many feedbacks that we've been like, everyone be like have different opinions when it comes down to Apple. Now here's my point, because no matter the opinion you have, it's not going to stop the fact that they're still going to sell out. The question is, why is it that every single time we keep talking about Apple, Apple, Apple? Oh no, I'm not going to get the new model when they bring it out. Oh no, there's really not much difference, but they still keep selling out. Now we're going to break all of those down here, and we're going to talk about much more about Apple. Like literally, they went from a garage startup to a tech it's amazing, the transformation and the brand, what they've been able to you know how they've been able to position their brand, and how they've been able to get people to not only talk about their brand. I mean, you will complain from now to tomorrow, you're still going to go out there and get the newest model of their iPhone. Literally, you're going to complain from now to tomorrow. You're still going to go into the Apple store and get the newest brand of their Mac, whatever. So, what makes them annoying, but yet so attractive? And you just keep sparking this curiosity, and all you just want to do is tap into that next Apple product. Now, all of these questions and more is literally what we're going to be breaking down in this amazing episode of the Big Brands and Small Businesses. I love this series. I know we've grown, myself and Allegra have grown so well when it comes down to all of this series, and that's because we're learning. And I I'm hoping that you're also learning and growing as much as we are as well. We want to one day command the kind of audience, command the kind of um, grace that Apple commands as well. And I can't wait for you to ask all of your questions and also be a part of this amazing conversation. As always, my name is TC. I'm a systems implementation strategist, and I can't wait to dissect Apple. I can't wait to dissect, the amazingness that Apple has been able to establish and how they've been able to do it. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in. And I'm always very excited, always very excited to talk about all of these brands. So while we wait for Allega to time in, I'm just going to get started. I want to first learn from you what's your thoughts about the Apple brand. Every time you hear the word Apple, what comes to mind for you? I want to know what comes to mind for you. Okay, so tell me what you think about Apple as a brand. Tell me what you think about their product. Why we dissect everything about them, how they started, where they are right now. I think we did a very good job about breaking down Apple. Um, I think that was like last week, right? We started off with that, and it was super amazing. Now, whatever questions you have when it comes down to Apple, please do feel free to time in, and I am always very excited to pick your questions and answer your questions. Okay, I think we have Allegra back. Allegra, do you want to go on? I think we already started with Apple, and we wanted to go like deep dive into the challenges and the marketing analysis, right, Allegra?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me good. Is there an echo? Okay. So I had to do some technology switches over here. Y'all know how it is. Technology is like doing its thing. But I want to just chime in on this amazing brand because TC, you're right. Like I do want to be, climbing that ladder. When I look at Apple's milestones and the things that they, did well, I think that that's really why we're here is to have the conversation to talk about like, okay, what are the things that went well and didn't go well, and how can we learn from that? And also, you're right. Like, I mean, long ago, I remember my mom having a first generation iPhone and like bragging about it to everyone. It wasn't like because it was like all this like awesomeness. Like I felt like my phone was better anyway. I had like I had the other. But I just felt like, it was more of like a feeling, right? Because when we think about brands, we think about the feeling it gives somebody, right? And so when you buy that brand new iPhone, when you buy that brand new device, right, that comes out, you feel renewed, you feel refreshed, right? All the old becomes new, you have new features. It doesn't even have to be any different than the older version. It's just the fact that it's a new thing. And we're loyal to the brand because I'm gonna be honest with you, I love the way Apple curates the experience. Everything's clean and white and super cool. I love that. So I want to just dig into that with the milestones first. So let's go over that, y'all. Let's talk about, and this is not a list that we have available for anyone. I want to chime in there because I think we had a question about having an article. And for anyone who wants like a piece of this live, like any information, we coach on this stuff, right? We talk to you about these in our programs and in our one-on-one spaces. But if you want something like a guide, or a download, we'll be creating that for you as well. So just stay tuned, but keep asking your questions, keep telling us what you need, because this is helping us give you all of the information that you want to dig into and find out about. Those major milestones in Apple's history, y'all. So first of all, Apple started in 1976. First and foremost, that's when it was founded, and we talked about that, right? Three guys. And we knew that there was a little bit of a discrepancy in the beginning because one of the founders dipped out, right? We talked about that. That was Ronald Wayne. We have the two Steves, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and they both were, head over heels for this Apple brand, right? And it's the same way we are about our own brands. We are head over heels about our brands. And a lot of times we'll get involved with people who want to be a part of our brands, right? Like Robert Wayne came in after he saw the idea, the desires that these guys had, and was like, oh, I want to get in on that. And you'll find that in business. I've seen that. I don't know about you, TC, but I've had people, want to be a part of a lot of things that I've done, but everyone can't always stay. And so Mr. Wayne, right, decided to pull out. And in 1980, Apple went public, right? They raised $100 million. I know he's mad about that. And it was the largest IPO since Ford Motor Company's debut in 1956. So this wasn't just a major brand. This was a big explosion, right? This is something that no one really could foresee. And but we saw the assertiveness in the beginning of that marketing. And this is why I feel, TC, that marketing is such a pivotal part of the business. Because if you're not marketing your business, which a lot of, when we talk about the corporations we work with, when we talk about the business owners that are starting up, a lot of times we miss out on the opportunities to market because we're so involved in the operations of the business. And I was having a conversation yesterday, and someone asked me a question. They said, how do you market well if you have a printing company? And I said, well, have you talked to some of your local, stores, like the stores that are right next to you in your local area, and have you asked them if they need your services? And he was like, nah. I was like, well, have you gone online and have you, talked to people about what you do? Have you posted pictures? Have you shown the behind the scenes, right? He was like, no. I said, well, how do people know what you do? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't usually deal with that. So there's a lot of things that we're doing, right, in our business that we've never done before, or we don't usually do. So we have to learn how to do that. We have to learn how to market ourselves. And so that's really what made Apple so popular, because I remember even the story. If y'all watched the movie, put a heart in the comments, because if you saw that movie, it was so amazing how he was so relentless about making those calls, right? They started in the garage and he just kept making call after call after call. He got no's after no's after no's, and he didn't stop. And so when he did get the opportunity, he just moved forward. So, well, right? Because we know Steve Jobs was at the lead of this, but also Steve Wozniak was a part of the IT development part. So he didn't do it alone, and that's something we talked about before. You're not going to raise, you're not going to grow a business alone. It's just not going to happen. Now, you can have a business where you are the sole owner, but you still have to partner up. You still have to have employees. You still have to have support, contracting, whatever it looks like. You have to do it with other people. 1984, Apple introduced Macintosh, the first commercially successful personal computer. With graphical user interface. I don't know what that is, but it says GUI. So whoever knows what that is, y'all go ahead and have fun with that. Then in 1997, this is so funny. Steve Jobs returns to Apple after 12 years being absent, rescuing the company from financial distress. Y'all, listen. Like, this is why we say there's only one of you. Like, this is why we say no one can duplicate your ideas. No one can, run the company like you. So don't worry about them stealing your ideas. No one can do it like you, right? That's why, because it didn't matter what happened with Apple. Steve Jobs was the brand. Still is, right? And so we actually look at this and we say, well, Steve Jobs was really the curator, the experience of the brand. He was everything the brand represented. So we have to look at ourselves and say, are we everything our brand represents to our customers? Or are we selling something that we're not? So we have to kind of match up with that, right? And then looking at the future, we have Apple launched its first iPod in 2001. Apple introduced the first iPhone 6 years later. 2010, the iPad was introduced. That was about 3 years after that. So they started to just grow and grow and grow. And they became the first company to reach market capitalization of $1 trillion in 2018. I bet y'all didn't know that. I didn't know that. And it's $2 trillion in 2020 in valuation, right? They became the most valuable publicly traded company in the world. So, we're not just talking about a brand that, just did whatever. They were very, very strategic. And I want to talk about that in this live today, TC, because we want to talk about some key areas that, I really think people need to focus on more in their business so that they can grow it rather than just work in it. Your mission and your vision, right? I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about how Apple created that, how they created their brand and marketing strategy. I want to talk about their challenges, and I want to talk about goals. These are things that Apple, they couldn't be successful without it. No business that we've talked about in these series, y'all, has been successful without having a plan, a strategy, and a way to move forward, right? Because those challenges that you're gonna get, that you're gonna have to run into, they're there to make you stronger. But you don't want to do it being unprepared. So these are things that we teach, and we want to make sure that you are understanding how big brands that are also small businesses, they started off small, just like you and I, just like TC and I. We want you to know that you can be a big brand too, because you are one already. Now, TC, go ahead. I would love for you to introduce yourself as well, and then go into well, you introduce yourself, but go into this area that we're talking about, which is the success of it all and their milestones.
Personally, one thing I feel like I admire, um, when it comes down to the milestones, the success, that Apple has achieved, over the years, is the fact that we can't rule out positioning, we can't rule out branding, we can't rule out the fact that, you know, understanding and applying, it's one thing to have a vision, it's another thing to apply that vision, right? So that it works. And I feel like Apple was able to do that. And that's why, like I was saying earlier, even if I cry from now to tomorrow, oh no, I'm not gonna get an Apple phone. Oh no, I'm not gonna get an Apple phone. I'm still going to somehow, I don't know, like once, no, I don't pray for it anyways. But just in case the boys just do like, and they just, move the phone somehow, and then my phone smashes on the floor. I'm definitely going to, want to try out the new model, right? Now, there's something about the brand, there's something about the positioning, and that's because they are deep rooted in the vision, in the mission of, their ideas of why exactly they started, what is their end goal, what do they want to accomplish. And so I feel like understanding the foundation in which Apple is leveraging right now, um, is key. And once we're able to understand it, it's not about what they're doing now. Personally, I don't feel that whatever success they are seeing is as a result of what they're doing now. I believe that it's as a result of the foundation that they've been able to solidify, over the years, that is giving them this kind of, outcome. This every time sold out, sold out, sold out. Whether it's crappy, whether it's not crappy, it's always a sold out product. Okay, and they're leveraging it time and time. They keep leveraging it, and so I'm very excited. I really want us to like talk about it. You know that part where you said something about Steve Jobs coming back after 12 years. If every small business can understand that you like you are the brain behind your business, doesn't necessarily mean you have to work in your business. They're two different things entirely. Now, because we choke ourselves up with trying to work in our business and do everything, we forget who we are. We forget the place that we hold in our business, which is basically the brain behind the business. Now, Steve Jobs, he knew that, I'm sure he's there smiling. He was just there smiling at them and said, "Oh, you like literally pushed me out of management. You pushed me out of this stuff. Okay, yeah, fine, no problem. You have the manuscript, you have the framework, you bought the MRL course. Now you think you now all of a sudden a business coach just because you were fortunate to pay into a coaching program, and then you saw all of the process, and boom, you'd be like, oh, now I'm not a business coach. I can now start to teach people how to do this, blah 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 blah. And then you take the the framework and you take everything and then you feel that you're going to be that person. No, it's not possible, right? Because if that particular coach or that particular, expert have been deeply rooted in their foundation, whether you like, take whatever you want to take, you cannot do the whole thing like they would do it. I mean, you have it, you have the courses, you have the framework, you have everything, but you don't have Steve Jobs, for example, for Apple. You don't have, this particular person because you're not them. Now, I'm going to say this before I yield, pass the mic to Allegra, because I really want her to deep dive into the vision and mission. Listen, what has always stood out for me, is the fact that as small business owners, we need to understand what it means to personalize the entire experience that our business, that, the entire customer purchasing experience from start to finish. We want to intentionally personalize this. We want to put in our personality. We want to go beyond just the logo, just the colors, just the pretty pictures. We want to understand what true branding really means, because that basically gets you standing, just in case somebody decides one day that they have so much money and they want to push you aside. You know that they can never push you aside. Why? Because they need you to survive. They need you to thrive. So at the end of the day, whichever it is, you're still standing. Now, how about we think about all of these things, have this mindset, have this open-mindedness, while Allegra deep dives into like the vision and the mission, so that by the end of this conversation, right, you're not only taking out something really concrete, but you're taking out strategies that you're able to implement in your business right now. Over to you, Allegra. I love the way you're smiling. What's happening? Is it the hair?
I'm
Is
rocking
it
back and
the
forth,
peruca?
having these like sensory issues right now because I'm just like feeling all tingly inside. Um, I dropped some things in the comments, y'all, because this is a really juicy. If you really look at this is not so far fetched, right? These are real situations that are happening, and it's teaching us that when you build your brand, it has to come from you. This is what I'm looking at. Like, Steve Jobs did not build his brand off of someone else's idea, someone else's concept. He didn't fake it, right? He didn't act like he knew what he wanted, and he was very clear about it. And no matter what the challenge that came his way, he was like, he didn't budge. He just didn't budge. And I think that's the attitude we have to have too, because sometimes we can get very caught up in what other people want for our businesses, right? Like, we're like, well, they didn't like that, so now I'm going to change the price. Now I'm going to change the product. Now I'm going to change the email. I'm going to change the social media post. And the thing about that is, we have to follow what comes to us in our marketing strategies, but that comes from planning. And so to avoid getting so caught up in what other people want from us, right, we have to know what we want. And that does take a mindset of planning. You have to be very, very intentional. And you could tell that Steve Jobs was very intentional, because in the beginning, he took his time to get a team together. And they brainstormed in a garage. And they built these computers, and they beta tested, or they had prototypes. They didn't just build it and say, hey, everybody buy a computer. Hopefully it doesn't fail on you. So they took time to really plan this thing out. And I want to talk about, some of the areas where I think that obviously they're really strong, the mission and vision. But something came up while you were speaking, TC, and I said, there's a missing part in this story. The missing part is Steve Jobs. His leave of absence, right? Because we looked at the history and it kind of like went over that a little bit. But for 12 years, he was gone from the company that he built. And they fired him in 1985, right? 1984 was when they introduced Macintosh. That was the first, remember I said that GUI thing? The first graphical user interface. So this was the first computer that anyone ever had in their home. No one knew how to really use it. And you know how that is, right? When a new product comes to market, we talked about this in the last live stream. I talked about the Ansoff's matrix. You have to look at, like, what does it look like when you have a new product coming into a new market. Nobody knows about you. Nobody's ever heard about you. Nobody knows how to use your product. You're the genius at it, right? You're the one that's passionate. You built it. You made it. When you have that type of product and that type of brand, you have to penetrate that market differently than if they already know who you are. It takes a lot more. And so maybe they didn't realize that. Maybe they thought, hey, he got us to this point. We finally got the computers in everybody's homes. We're now making all this money. So let's fire him. We could do this all by ourselves, right? And I want to touch on his leave because there's a reason why they fired him, right? Like, there's a reason. They didn't just like say up and go, oh, we just want to get rid of you. There's a reason. And so we can learn from this, right? Apple fired Steve Jobs in 1985, and it was a pivotal moment in both his career and the company's history. So the fact that they fired Steve Jobs and what happened afterwards actually made Apple even more successful. They had no idea. And so sometimes when things happen to us in our business, we can't always complain that the failure is a bad thing, right? And I'm going to explain why. Steve Jobs, there was a lot that was going on internally, right? So initially, he was a driving force behind the company's success with the products that he was making, like Apple II, Macintosh. However, by 1985, Apple had a board, right? So they had a board of directors, and the CEO, John Sculley, who Jobs actually had helped bring to the company. So Jobs had a big part in making sure that John Sculley was a main name within the Apple brand, right? And this happens a lot, right? We bring people in our companies and we're like, oh my God, they're so amazing. And then we, really give them like the pedestal. But what happened was, John Sculley was concerned about Steve Jobs' management style. So even though Steve Jobs brought him on, after working for Steve Jobs and being on the board of directors, he decided, I don't like the way you manage. Right? For whatever reason. And his leadership was seen as too demanding. And after a series of product failures, tensions grew between Jobs and Sculley. And Steve Jobs, wanted to take more control of Apple's future direction, but Sculley and the board resisted. So, there's some things here that we don't know about. We don't know what was going on with Steve Jobs' mental state. We don't know what's going on in the company. We don't know what was going on with the board members. We don't know. But what we do know is that there was an internal power struggle. That's what we do know. And we know that power struggle came from people that Steve Jobs brought to the company, right? Like, it's not just like people we don't know. So there are going to be struggles in your company, right? There are going to be times where you may have to come across situations that may not be very, very comfortable. But here's the thing. One thing I love about this story is that I don't think Steve Jobs backed down. I don't think he backed down. It talked about the struggle. It reached a tipping point, and then the board decided to demote Jobs from overseeing the Macintosh division. So they just imagine this. Like, you build your company from the ground up. You hire these people to run it, and then they literally tell you, you're not a good fit for this position. We're going to demote you. Make it make sense. So, I don't know. Y'all tell me how y'all feel about that. Make it make sense. So anyway, that eventually led to Jobs just leaving the company entirely in September 1985. Good job, because I would have left too. I'd have been out. I'm not staying here. I know it's my company, but I'm not staying here. So despite being a visionary, Jobs' his confrontational management style and the company's financial struggles contributed to, them outing him. So Apple, in years after he left, they struggled. Apple actually struggled when Steve Jobs left. So even though his management style was very demanding, Apple struggled when he left. Go figure, right? And it talked about how the company didn't have any leadership and they experienced lots of product failures, right? With no groundbreaking innovations between 1985 and 1997. That's a big gap. That's more than 10 years. Imagine going through your business after being successful year after year after year after year with the demanding leader, and then you go, you know what, we don't like working underneath you anymore, we're going to demote you, and Steve Jobs is like, I'm out. And when he leaves for 12 years, they're unsuccessful. They don't know how to do what he did. So Apple's market share and profitability declined, and the company was on the brink of bankruptcy. I am done. Coming from the brink of bankruptcy, y'all throw it in the garbage. So listen, so here's what I want to say about this is that Jobs, while they were bankrupt, while they were going to bankruptcy, guess what Jobs was doing? Guess what Steve Jobs was doing? He was going on new ventures. Steve Jobs left Apple and he founded another company called Next. The same year they fired him, the same year they let him go, he went and started a whole new company called Next. And it developed high-end computers for education and business markets. He also purchased Pixar and became one of the most successful animation studios under his leadership. Though Next was not commercially successful, the technology, y'all, it developed, like it said, the technology it developed, it played a crucial role in Apple's future later. So this is blowing my mind because I'm gonna stop there and I want TC to comment, and y'all gotta share it live, please. Welcome. Because this is crazy how, you know, you are your brand. This is what we mean by that. Because Steve Jobs started a company, he worked his butt off to build this company. Everything came from him. And the people that he hired and helped decided that he was not a good fit for his own brand. Oh, you're working us too hard. Now he goes to another company after they fire him from his own company. He starts another company. It didn't necessarily become extremely successful, but he bought Pixar in the process. That became successful. And then the company he started actually later on combined with Apple's future to make it successful. I want to stop there. TC, what do you think about that? I'm like, I'm done.
If you have a vision, you have a vision. If you have a gift, you have a gift. If you have a skill, you have that skill. If you have knowledge about something, girl, no one can take it away from you. See, the truth is, they can want to distract you. They might want to, put all of these hurdles. But if it is yours, it is yours. Like, literally, you can close your eyes and replicate it. Now, this, I feel, is one thing small business owners should understand and put into consideration. Now, if you are in a business that doesn't bring out the best in you, if you are currently doing something that you feel but it's not just a part of you. It's not you. It's not something someone want to like wake you up in the night and you be like, yes, let's do it. It's your sign to move away because that is not sustainable. Okay? You can't clap back on something you're not even excited about. He's able to fight by doing that. Like, he's not going to struggle and want to, fight over his seats that he built. Like, what insults? It's such insolence. I'm like, why? And then you come in and you want me to fight for a seat that I literally built from scratch. Girl, make yourself comfortable. Okay, let's replicate it. You are your brand. Allegra just said it. You are your brand, right? And what this means is that once you have that foundational, that's you solidify that fact, you can replicate it. It's the same thing we keep talking about, documenting your processes, understanding, having a strategy. If Steve did have, see the way, can't you see the way I'm talking about, like a Steve, like we're friends, we're like, he just stays across my house, like Steve, even the way I call the name, it's like, but you know how this, well, you get it, right? So it's exciting to understand that once you hone into your brand, now these things don't come overnight, but you see, what you've put in your sweat, your time, your energy, your sacrifice to build, no Jupiter and planet Earth. And the very good part is that Steve was working on his business, like he was invested in that business. That's why he was able to tell them, you know what, make yourself comfortable. You're still going to meet me some other time. I'm just going to stay here waiting for you to just mess yourself up. When you're done, I'll come clean you up. Well, but it comes with the price, right? Now, we want to understand that that's the kind of energy we want to bring to the table when it comes down to our businesses. People respect you not because you are, in quotes, good at this thing, but the fact that you can replicate that thing you say you're good at. When the chips are down, can you stand up? Can you tell yourself, this is me, this is my vision, this is me, this is my life, this is me, right? And so I'm not going to sit down and cry and try to form a pity party just because I'm like, hey, I do my thing, because you're still going to run after me and come meet me. Like, that's the kind of energy I want us to get off from all of this. Like, if there's nothing that I'm taking from Apple's story, it's the fact that I admire Steve's tenacity, his persistence, his discipline. Yes, I know that sometimes we can say, "Oh, you know what? Our style of management or our style of doing something." But the truth is that it was based on that style, right? He was able to get Apple from ground zero to ground where they are right now. Okay, it was still that same style. Now, somebody will come somewhere, as we grow, people be like, things are evolving, and we think we want to change. No, we are not changing. What we are doing is transforming. We are, there's this word I want to use. It's an evolution, right? We are oh no, that word is such a big word. I'm trying to think about the word, but you know the word, right? We're going to write the word. I write it later in the chat. But that's the word. That's the word, and it's so powerful. It's so powerful because we are not meant to change. We are meant to transform. We are meant to evolve. Now that is what they didn't understand. They thought, oh, it could be the Gen Zs, the Gen Zs of their time. They'd be like, oh, we want to change this. We want to do something different. No, y'all be like, no, changing or trying to do something different or want to change the style that has been working. You don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? Remember, every time we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, we talk about branding, we're talking about the consistency in repeating the same thing. It goes all around these three concepts, right? Consistency in repeating the same thing. Now, when you repeat the same thing, how are you able to make it consistent? How are you able to make it sustainable? By building a structure. And I'm sure that he already had that figured out. Now, all he had to do is get himself busy building, while obviously they realize how much they can do without him. Now, the question I want us to answer: our business, how relevant is it? Can you tell yourself that my current client would always need me? I mean, obviously they would grow, they would evolve. Can you tell yourself right now that your business is able to transition and transform and evolve at the same pace that your target audience are transforming and evolving? Can you ask yourself and tell yourself, okay, you know what, at this juncture, my business can stand the test of time? Now, all of these questions, I'm not necessarily saying that you should have all of them as a big yes right now, because I can't not necessarily say personally for me, I can say big yes to all of the questions that are in my head. But one thing I can tell you is that we can build the foundation that will get us to that big yes when the time comes. With your marketing processes, with your sales processes, with your branding all on point, with positioning all top notch. You're not changing, you're evolving, you're transforming. Okay, can you tell yourself that this, what you have right now, is you being that brand? Can you tell yourself that you are your brand? Can you tell yourself right now that, I am positioned in such a way that I don't necessarily need to be in my business for them to feel my impact? Think about it. Now, these are the things that I want us to sit down, and think about, because that's the energy. That's what Apple is giving. So, as a small business, we want to tap into all of these energies, because that is what is going to get myself and Allegra sweeping Steve Jobs off his job. We just might be the next people who will just take him off the street and just tell him to go sit down. Please don't come after don't come after me, But you just never know. And that's where I'm going to stop. And so Allegra can take it over, and let's just go into this conversation. Is really good. I like it. Really good.
I do too. It goes by so fast, y'all. We can't be here forever because we do have to make sure that we have opportunity to, teach you in other spaces. But here's the thing. Everything that you're saying, TC, I love, because we got to take our businesses seriously. And I love the fact that a lot of people are waking up to this now. It didn't happen overnight for Steve Jobs. It's not going to happen overnight for anyone else. So we look at these milestones and these time frames, because I'm sure before they even incorporated Apple, Steve Jobs was going through different things too, right? We are testing and seeing what we like, what we don't like, so look at your business, look what you're doing. Maybe you're at that level where you're like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Maybe you're at a level where you're like, I don't really know, right? But you got to try it out. You got to still do the work, because otherwise you won't know. And I think the attitude that Steve Jobs had, because honestly, going from running this company, Apple, and it actually becoming public and becoming successful in a very short time, really, because the amount of success it reached in a short time is just massive. And no one, I mean, it wasn't even an industry yet. So they covered the entire IT industry. There was no competitor. So Apple really did create their trailblazer, essentially. So when we're starting our businesses and no one else is doing what we're doing, we have to realize that builds confidence when we keep showing up, when we keep talking about it, when we keep, partnering up with people and saying, hey, help me spread the word. That grows you, that grows your business. And one of the things I love too is that when he left Apple, he didn't stop. Like, he went straight to the next company, and he was like, well, I built it once, I can do it again. And it's the attitude that we all have to have. Like, we all have to be so confident in our ability to succeed and fail and do it well, right? Because if you succeed well, you should be able to fail well as well, right? You got to know that every failure is a learning opportunity. And I think that that's what they did not calculate. I don't think they calculated the fact that Steve Jobs had now all these years of experience since he started this business, and he has more knowledge and experience, and he had all of the behind the scenes secrets of Apple. They let this man go with a loaded gun. Why would you do that? So now that this man is, Steve Jobs knew, like you said, TC, he knew what he was doing. He understood that, okay, y'all gonna let me go, y'all gonna demote me. I got a loaded gun. I'm going to go ahead and fire off. And that's exactly what he did. And he went and started his own company. And he fired off, baby. Like, he did everything he was supposed to do. And they needed him for 12 years. And I don't know if, and it didn't specify if they asked for him back in that time and he declined, right? That could have happened. Because I'm sure you don't suffer for 12 years and just don't say anything, right? Like, there had to have been a conversation like, hey man, like, we're not doing so well. Would you mind coming back? And Steve Jobs being on a new venture with a new company of his own and getting with Pixar, that's not an option anymore. Like, no, y'all wanted Apple, you got Apple. Good luck. And I think that time maybe that did kind of, weigh on Steve Jobs. And I'm going to talk about these in the last two parts because it says Apple's decline and Jobs' return. By the mid 1990s, Apple was in financial trouble. And in 1996, the company acquired Next for $429 million. So they actually, so you see how they had to go back into the pot with Steve Jobs. And primarily for the software NextStep, because Steve Jobs obviously made something that Apple needed. And think about it. He probably was already working on it. Like, the company create the product that is necessary in the market and then show their competitors that they need you more than you need them. And that's exactly what Steve Jobs did. And so when you look at this software that he created called NextStep, which Apple needed, the acquisition led to Steve Jobs returning to Apple. So because they needed this software that Steve Jobs made in his other company, they decided to let him back as an advisor. Go figure. So now he's back on top. And shortly after, he became the interim CEO. So his return marked that significant turnaround for the company. Because look, after Steve Jobs came back, they launched products like iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad. So without Steve Jobs coming back to Apple, we would never have an iPhone, y'all. Like, just think about how detrimental that is. Think about how cold it is when you are not a part of your brand. Think about how much your brand needs you to make it make sense for people. Because to be honest with you, Steve Jobs, his passion is what drove that brand because he had the ideas, But the difference is that he needed the team to make it happen. And his team just wasn't vibing for a while. So now that he's back on board, right? Now we have the legacy of firing because, Jobs firing from Apple is often viewed as a blessing in disguise. Like we said, right? Sometimes we look at our challenges and we're like, oh my God, that happened. I got to give up now. Don't give up. Don't give up. It could be part of the master plan. And when, it gave him time to learn about what was going on, he learned from his failures, like we talked about. It gave him a broader perspective on leadership. Okay. And his return to Apple transformed the company into one of the most valuable companies in the world today. It solidified his legacy and in those great innovations we just talked about. So listen, we know Apple's services and products, but one thing that it does say, okay, is that Apple's leading product out of all of the products is the iPhone. So TC, when you said, and I'll end with this, when you said they come out with a new iPhone every year and it's no different, it's just another iPhone, right? When you say that, it's not just another iPhone, y'all. Here's the thing, right? Because we didn't go over any of the missions and values, but if you look at all of their identities, right? Their mission is so jam-packed. And then you talk about the storytelling in their marketing. They do not advertise just product features. They advertise personal stories, right? Like the company, they showcase how people use the device, how meaningful it is to them. So whether it's like capturing a family moment or like, producing some music, right? Or designing something, right? Apple has created this amazing marketing. And we know storytelling is one of the biggest marketing strategies that work, and it's so cool. And just using the way that Apple appeals to like that emotional need that people have for creativity and self-expression. Like all these things are not product based, they're not technology and feature focused, they're all about feelings. And just imagine if we look at our brands that way. Imagine if we turn our marketing into storytelling, right? And start telling stories about what your products and services do for people, did for you, right? What it could do for the world. Imagine telling your brand, right? Your story in so many places that people that need it can now find it, right? And this is some of the things that you need a team for, right? You need software and systems for, right? Because you are only one person and your brand is bigger, right? That's why we talk about this big brand, small business. So I encourage y'all to make sure that you look into this in your business. Make sure that you're calculating like how strong am I in my business and my ideas, that even if I hire a team, my team don't like me, would I not care? Right? Or if I go out in the public and I have an idea and nobody else is doing it, and I put it out there and nobody wants to buy it, but I keep putting it out there, right? These are things that happen with Apple. And this is why their success is so huge, because I believe that Steve Jobs was just bold enough to do what most people are really afraid to do, which is go against the odds. Do what is in your heart to do, right? Follow your dreams, your desires, right? The ideas that come to you, like manifest them. It's really, really that simple. And also, when you accept, and I think this is part of receiving, when you accept that the things that you have in you are for you, that they're real for you, then you actually start investing in yourself better, right? I was just, I don't know if it was like a reel I saw or something, but it was talking about, when people don't really like to pay for certain things like workshops and, I think you said something about that, TC, and they were like, yeah, but I don't really, it's like, it's just information, right? Well, listen, everything you do is an investment. It's not because of the information you're getting, it's because you're betting on yourself every time. Even if that workshop is $150 and you got, some basic information and you didn't get what you thought you was going to get, you had a learning opportunity that most people don't have, because a lot of people don't even want to invest $5 in themselves, right? And think about it like this. It will also teach you ways, because I've had to have conversations, and I'll end here, because people will say, well, I don't have the money to do it, or I don't have the funds to do it, right? And here's what I've learned is that when you want something, you just make it happen, right? And so asking for the guidance, the support, getting mentorship, right? A lot of those things do not cost money. And so we want to make sure that people are not really getting lost in this, because I love this story. I think we have to end it though, because we can't keep going with Apple. They are an amazing brand. But what we can do is we can go through this process with you guys one-on-one in our programs. We can consult you on this in your own business, because I'm gonna tell you, I have built teams for years. And I have seen a lot when it comes down to, like we talked about, high turnovers and bad management, bad leadership, and not having a system in place so that people can follow. And we're going to train and develop you on that. So, TC, go ahead. I would love for you to end this live, takeaways, final words, and then we'll get out of here.
So simple. All of these sessions, that we have, all of these, um, episodes that we keep doing every single Thursday is geared towards getting you off that whole. I mean, I know you're a small business. That's we're not arguing. but you don't have to stay in the small mindset. Now, just because you're a small business doesn't mean you have to live within that small mentality. Oh no, I'm going to have to stay. No, you want to think big. You want to reach the big thing, move with the big brands, move in the big mindset, because that's where you're going to get all of all of the results that you desire, right? You start to meet those opportunities, you start to explore those opportunities, because now you are thinking way out of the box. Now, to go to that level, my point is, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the big things. You just need to pay close attention to the very little things, the basic. So many of us who have been in business for 5 years, 2 years, 6 years, if there's anything wonky about your business, go back to the basics, because that is what is going to get you grounded towards all of those big dreams, right? Hitting those big opportunities. Ensure that the foundation, the structure, your business is structured, the foundation is solidified, because that is going to help you stand. Imagine you have a house without the right pillars, right? You just built a house and nothing is holding it. Can you actually have a head without a neck? Is that even possible? I don't think so. Now, if you can't have your head without your neck, why would you have your business without a strong brand? Why would you even have a business without a structure? Why would you have a business without a solidified foundation? Think about it. So, if you can't have your head without its neck, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your business. Don't do that to your legacy. Don't do that to the people who have, the people who are depending on your skill, your knowledge, your amazingness, your idea to even survive. You just never know where that thing you're holding as small is actually somebody's, breakthrough. You just never know. So don't deprive other people of the gifts you have, all because you're still thinking small. And that's basically why we bring all of these big brands. I will take you back to their history, take you back to where they started, and move you towards where they are right now. So you understand that all of those big things you see, we didn't wake up in the morning and boom, it's there. It started from somewhere. There was a starting point. You might be in that starting point. I might be in that starting point. But these episodes are basically here to say you don't need to stay small. You don't need to stay. I mean, for how long do you want to keep staying at a starting point? You need to move, right? And these are simple ways that you can actually achieve that effortlessly. Now, if you need support, you need a strategy, you need the know how to do all of these things we're talking about. That's why we're here. I mean, we're super reachable on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on everywhere. You have our emails. Okay, if you don't, go to our link in bio, right? If you can't reach us, just send a message in this comment. Like, there is no excuse why you should be small, all because you tell yourself I'm a small business. Okay, now that's what I had to say, and that's what I want to leave you all with. And before I get the mic to Lady, I want to say one quick thing. Come back next week, because going to be talking about another amazing big brand that I'm sure you're going to be very excited to hear about. So come back next week, ask your questions, put your questions in the comments, put your shares in the comments. If you are an iPhone obsessed fan, say hi in the chat. If you have for yourself an iPhone 16, say me. Let us know how many people that we're going to have to pack to Steve Jobs. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Always, always, and do not forget to stay connected. And come back next week. Let's talk about the next week brand we're going to be dissecting. Over to you, Ledra.
Okay, sorry, I have my hand all in the mic, all in the picture. So listen, y'all, this has been a great live. I really enjoy having these conversations because, and especially from if you drop your questions and let us know how you like this live, it helps us a lot, because last week Karan was saying a lot about how she enjoyed the live, and some of the things that she really didn't know was shocking, right? Because you just don't know what you don't know. And when you relate your brand to a lot of what we're talking about, and you understand that you are just as capable to be successful, then you start thinking about your business differently. And so I would definitely encourage you all to connect with myself and TC, even if you don't think you need help, right, or support. We can still kind of give you some tips and some pointers, okay? Because I've had people in my discovery call and I'm like, girl, I know you just want to have a conversation, but let me tell you about your social media. But this is the thing. I want you all to make sure that you follow myself, TC, on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We do this every single Thursday, usually at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We had to move it today. But I want to make sure you stay tuned and follow us for our other lives as well. We do these lives all the time. And this is going to give you an entryway into a lot of our success places. We call them, like, what places where you actually dig in and learn. And you can get that one-on-one time with us so that we can really support you where you are. All right. Thank you again, everyone. Have an amazing night, and we will see you again next week. Bye. Uh-oh.